Welcome to the fourth in a series of posts that I've created on this blog to help educate you, the community, about the inner workings of our school district. If you're just joining our blog for the first time and you haven't reviewed the post about my resignation, the policy review, and VZ Part 1, I'd recommend you go back and watch those just to set the right foundation. But here we're just going to take a high-level view at our finances during this first part. So first you'll see fiscal accounting reporting policy DI, and I have highlighted the piece around the Finance Committee and the Board of Directors shall receive a district financial statement at each meeting. And once again, this is part of the responsibility of our treasurer. The second piece is the legal language around subchapter 4, financing, transfer between budget cost lines during the year for which the budget is approved using the cost center summary ledger format. The regional school unit board may transfer an amount not exceeding 5% of the total appropriation for any cost center to another cost center or among other cost centers without voter approval. So the board has that ability, so they can approve these transfers. And so if we want to go from one to the other, that's fine. Easy math. Approve $100, they can transfer up to $5 without coming back to the voter for approval. The next one, you're going to see the agendas that were sent out for a couple of Finance Committee meetings. The first one, you'll see the meeting's going to take place Friday, January 30th at 8:45 a.m. Hard for a lot of people to make that meeting, but transparency at its best. If you look at the agenda, item number 2, review of June 30th, 2014 audit report. Now, if you remember our policy discussion, this is supposed to be, per our policies around financial management, presented no later than December 1st of the first year. So when you look at this, we are late by a couple of months. The next one you'll see is the next year, and you'll see that this one's a little bit earlier. This is going to take place Friday, January 22nd, once again at 8:30 in the morning. Tough for some folks to make it. And we're going to review the June 30th, 2015 audit report. Now when you look at this one, we're a little bit closer. We're only about, but we're still about 7 days away from, or 11 days away from being 2 months late. So as you look at this, pretty much the trend, the board, finance committee really have no idea about the official finances of the district until roughly 7 months after the end of the fiscal year. You can ask questions before that. The answer you normally get is we're paying for our year-end audit and we're still paying bills, so we're not quite positive where this will land. And I'll show you why this is concerning. So we continually hear that our district does not have money for our schools. We continually freeze spending in our schools. But why? When you look at the first document on the next slide on the left, you'll see this is the June 30th, 2014 year-end statement from the audit. And once again, these statements were all from the audit that was presented publicly at a public finance committee meeting. These documents were handed out. Anybody from the public could have been there and could have had this, or you could go through a Freedom of Information Act request, pay the fee. You could have them as well. So if you look at this one, you look down through the different line items, you see the biggest under expenditure here is in student and staff support. But when you look down bottom, I've just kind of totaled them up. So compared to the final budget after modifications, 156,650 under spent on our students. If you look at the final budget, or the budget that we actually approved as taxpayers, we're closer to $300,000 underspent on our students. Remember, our main focus as a district is on the education of our students. Now look at the next line. If you look at after all adjustments, we have a system administration group of which is completely out of our compliance with our policies, but are 132,000 and change over in 1 year. If you go to the next one, you will see this is the June 30th, 2015, and then look at this one. So you'll see a couple of line items are circled. So these are the amounts that would qualify as being above 5% from the amount that the voters approved and the amount that were spent. So when you look at it, we have regular instruction is a big number, so that 200 plus thousand doesn't quite qualify, obviously, but look at special education, underspent by over 5%. Student staff support, underspent by over 5%. And in both years, we underspent on our facilities and maintenance. Now here, you'll see the facilities and maintenance looks pretty small, but then you look at, oh, $70,000 was transferred out. So if you go down below, you'll see that in this year, compared to the final budget after adjustments, we're 626,000 and change underspent on our students. And we're talking about regular instruction, special education, other instruction, student and staff support, and facilities maintenance. Obviously, facilities and maintenance is important because this is where our children spend their days. These are the fields that they play on. These are the playgrounds they're on. These are the gyms they're within. Okay, so, but once again, look at us. We're 79,000 and change over on our system administration. Seem to have a problem staying within budgets here, but consistently do receive raises. So if you go to the next year, and I do give credit where credit is due, our finance committee did start meeting more as of September of 2016, and this was actually presented on time. So this came in at December 1st, which great job. Once again, student and staff support, you'll see is circled. So for the second year in a row, we've underspent by over 5% on student and staff support. Now, we continually hear that in our schools we do not have funding. We can make requests and we don't get funded, they get rejected. We just don't have the money. We got to freeze it. Got to freeze the spending. We just don't have it. Okay, so let's think about this for a moment. So we have, when we talked about the policies, the finance committee being the approver, that should be, yes, I'm concerned about how the money's spent, but how is it not spent? How do you measure the impact of any programming, any resources, any ed tech hours, any specialist hours, any effort to improve the education of some of our students that need it? How do you measure the impact of that not happening? It's very hard. It's very difficult. But I can show you how much we underspend. But once again, so if you go down bottom, after the adjustments, we're a little over $380,000 underspent. But if you look at what we originally approved, we're over $450,000 underspent. Well, is it that we don't have the money, or someone's just choosing not to spend it on our students? Interesting. But once again, we're 67,000 and change over on system administration. So over the last 3 years, and this is all I have because I obviously resigned from the board. If you go to the right, I've just kind of broken it down, the categories that I'm looking at here that would seem to qualify as student focused. Compared to the final, even after the adjustments, over $1.1 million underspent. $1.1 million that should have been spent on our students wasn't. Student focus. Now let's look at the actual budget of which was presented to the voter and was approved by the voter. We're at $1.4 million and change underspent on our students. Really? This is student focus? Is this how our community views our students? The community I know and I've grown up in is very focused on our students. We would do anything for our children. Underspent by over $1.4 million on which we voted. I will give credit where credit's due. After all the adjustments and everything, the system administration team does come in under budget by $14,000. Prior to modifications, though, we are over budget by almost $280,000. So where is our focus? We seem to support the system administrative team, who seems to be running over 10% over budget on a yearly basis. We seem to support them at all costs. But our students? Really? Now, when the budget comes out and they're going to talk to you about something they should be very proud of, I was told I should be very proud of this. We have an unassigned fund balance of $1.5 million, somewhere around there, give or take, depending on what report you're looking at. As you know, as I show this data, it changes. $1.5 million unassigned fund balance. We underspent on our students by $1.4 million. And I'm supposed to be proud? We took money from our students, and now we're saying that we have an unassigned fund balance. Now, looking at our finance committee, when we went over this last audit, it was actually brought to our attention you're not supposed to have more than 3%. Of course, that's over a 3-year trend. When are we going to give that money back to our students? In my book, we owe them 1.4 plus whatever the negative impact was. That student that was entering 3rd grade a few years ago, who was just a little bit behind, that just a little bit of help, maybe a few ed tech hours, or maybe from a speech therapist, maybe from a specialist, maybe a couple of books. I'm convinced it's not that kids don't like to read, it's they don't like to read what we give them. Now that they're going to be entering 6th grade next year, by underspending on them, are they now ahead? I'll leave that up to you to decide. Remember, very proud. $1.5 million unassigned fund balance. We got money in the bank. I don't know if I'm so proud where we got it. So now, when we look at the finance and the facilities and maintenance, see how much we actually underspent on that previous slide. I just wanted to give you, this is a plan that was drafted back Prepared by Northeast Building Consultants from Litchfield, Maine, back July 6th of 2014. We're coming up on 3 years old. And it was revised February 1st of 2016. So some of these projects may have been done since then. But as you can see, a total bill here of $3 million that we need to come up with. Not sure how underspending on maintenance of facilities really does this, but we need about $3 million. Just around $2 million just for our schools. Remember, our schools are where our children stay. This is where they're supposed to be safe. Now, this past year, I'm not sure if you remember, a big chunk falling off one of our schools. We had some leaky roofs, some other, I'm not going to go through all of them because I don't want to scare people, but just kind of thinking about it. So $1.4 million we probably owe to our students, and we got $3 million in expenditures that we need to maintenance facilities. Now, once again, you see the smallest amount was $34,000 for the superintendent's office administrative building. They did get a new roof last year. I mean, you got to talk about priorities. Remember, support the administration at all costs. Our students can probably wait. Now, when you look at the last page of this presentation, you'll see that we do have one RSU number 22, year-to-date revenue general fund. Looking at the time period between July 2015, June 2016, I circled a couple of them here. One of them was during the meeting because I had circled the 11,000 and change for gate receipts. That seemed like a very low number to me. I don't know, but we have a really good basketball program for the boys, and our girls continue to get better. If you've ever been to a boys basketball game, the gym is usually pretty well filled. So I'll just let you do the math. Those under $12,000 seem like a reasonable amount that we're taking in for gate receipts. The explanation I get for this when I asked the question was that, well, actually half of it goes to the general ledger and half of it goes into the special fund for the field, the capital fund. Okay, balance there the whole time I was on the board was between $80,000 and $90,000. But if you go back a few slides and you look at that 2015 audit, you'll see I have a little note next to the 11,000 and change. See, I'm a note taker. Here, the explanation for this was money being transferred out of the general fund to go into the fund that is designed for the fields. So are 100% of our gate receipts going into that fund? Or do the explanations just not match? I don't know. Once again, I am not an attorney. I am not an accountant. I am just a financial professional. Usually you like to get the same answer twice. But by all means, there's probably a really good explanation for why you get two different answers. The other one I've circled, you'll see servicing provided to other SAUs. This is the revenue from VZ. Not sure about you, but normal in my world, RSU 22 revenue would all go into the general fund, just like the money that comes in from the state, the money that comes in from the towns, the money that comes in from tuition, it would all go in here, and then it would be dispersed into the other cost centers. Apparently not here. Now, when I asked about why we're paying things for VZ, I was told we use fund accounting. It all goes into one fund, and then there's IUs everywhere else. Now, there's another explanation that actually there's a separate fund that money goes into, and then we pay money out, and then this comes into here. I don't know. How much revenue are we really getting? Once again, I'll let you answer your own questions and ask those that you see fit. So as we wrap up our finance review part one, a couple things to think about. We should be very proud that we have $1.5 million unassigned fund balance because we were able to do that by underspending on our students by over $1.4 million. We overspend on system administration on a regular basis, and now remember our curriculum director in that group don't actually come out of system administration. Some people don't really realize this. They actually come out of another category. Now, there's a link below this video. You'll see the proposed 2018 budget from our school district. I encourage you to go look through there and see where you see cuts, students, and where you see increases. Now also, I do know that there's an Article 20 of which states has to do with if more money comes in from the state than we're expecting. I know that at least Winterport and Hamden, their towns, leadership have asked formally for this to state that any money extra that comes into the state, because these folks are asking you for an increase. They are looking to raise your taxes because we need more money. Really. I don't know. If you think about it, if you took the leadership of this group and removed it, you could free up a lot of money. But we'll get into that later. So they're going to ask you to approve that you leave the choice up to the board, of which we've already talked about doesn't really have any control of the finances. And they are, so you'd be leaving it up to the superintendent, assistant superintendent to choose what they want to do with this. Now you can see where their priorities are. So I'll leave that once again up to you. And lastly, I encourage you all, if you're following this, to become engaged, and continue to be engaged, and when the budget meeting does happen, I encourage you all to show up and have your voice expressed, whether you're for the budget, against the budget, or what have you. And once again, very proud to have that unassigned fund balance. Thank you for watching this video. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, system administration are all getting raises. And their stipends for the VZ work, and with their regular contract with us, and the thing that I've just learned about, I'm still learning about the stipend benefit, which seems to be kind of neat. So remember, 1.4 million underspent on students, $1.5 million on the Sun Fund balance, overspending on system administration year in and year over 10%, and everybody's getting a raise. And it's more valuable for the superintendent and assistant superintendent to each have an assistant than the 2 teachers that they're looking to cut from the budget while raising your taxes. Thank you for watching, and next time we will go over VZ Review Part 2.